Good evening. I'm Cindy Darling, Mayor of the City of Walnut Creek, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Walnut Creek City Council. The City Council is conducting this meeting from the City Council chamber. This meeting is being video streamed and can be viewed live or later on the city's website. As some attendees may be participating in their first Walnut Creek City Council meeting, I wanted to welcome everyone and talk briefly about the public comment process. For each agenda item, there will be an opportunity for public comment on that item. Thus, if you desire to speak to an item on the agenda this evening, please hold your comments until the City Council considers that item. Additionally, we have a section on the agenda titled Public Communications, which is for public comments for items not on the agenda. Any comments during public communication should not relate to an item that is on the agenda this evening. Consistent with Section 9.5 of the City Council Handbook, 30 minutes will be initially allocated for public communication for items not on the agenda. Additional time for public communications for items not on the agenda will be provided at the end of the open session portion of the meeting if necessary. If you desire to provide a public comment, please complete a speaker identification card and line up behind the lectern at the appropriate time. Wait your turn, and then when you approach the lectern, please state your name, city of residence for the record. You will have 2 minutes to address the City Council. Please keep in mind that this is a city business meeting. The City Council has adopted rules of decorum to ensure that meetings are conducted efficiently and effectively, and that all members of the public have a full, fair, and equal opportunity to be heard. The City Council Handbook outlines decorum expected in the council chamber and can be found on our website. All remarks should be addressed to the City Council. Please do not use threatening, profane, or abusive language which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the council meeting. Again, each speaker will have 2 minutes to make your remarks. Written comments submitted and received up to 2 hours before the meeting have been posted to the city website for public review and are included in the meeting record, but will not be separately read into the record. All right, after that stirring intro video, good evening. I am Cindy Darling, the Mayor of the City of Walnut Creek, and welcome to the Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 regular meeting of the Walnut Creek City Council. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I love it, everybody.
Thank you all for doing a good job with that. And now City Clerk Susie Martinez, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Devaney.
Here.
Councilmember Francois.
Here.
Councilmember Silva.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk.
Here.
And Mayor Darling.
Here. All right, I would like to invite, is it Brianna's going to come up? All right. Our first proclamation tonight is on Pedestrian Safety Awareness Night, or month. We have a whole month of this. It's something that we work at tirelessly in the city with our Vision Zero plan and our pedestrian planning, bike planning, and probably a topic of conversation later. So I just wanted to welcome Brianna and ask you to give a short spiel on what we do for pedestrian safety.
Of course. Thank you, council members. So again, my name is Brianna Byrne. I'm an associate traffic engineer here at the City of Walnut Creek. For the larger crowd, Walnut Creek, we are Vision Zero City. We are trying to eliminate fatal and serious injury collisions within the city. This includes drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists. And as pedestrians and cyclists are more vulnerable, they're more susceptible to these types of collisions. So as engineering, we're looking to improve our streets, and we do work with our community partners. So with me today, just for a very quick couple of words, is Kate Ming. We have a Walnut Creek walk and bike group.
Thank you. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Ming, and I'm with a pedestrian and bike advocacy group here in Walnut Creek. We're relatively new, and we're all very excited to make Walnut Creek safer. Fatalities due to car accidents has increased something like, I think I read today, 80%, far more than any other country. And we really need to work on that. And I really would appreciate working with the city of Walnut Creek to make our place safer, where we live safer. I think one of the biggest things to do is actually slow cars down and create more sidewalks would be something I would very much advocate for. But thank you.
Thank you. And we'll come around and do the picture with you now. But first, since I have so many young people in the room who are going to be learning how to drive in just a little bit, do you see what I'm holding in my hand? Should you be scrolling and looking at TikToks while you are driving? Should your mom be scrolling and looking at TikToks while she's driving? No. So that's my pedestrian awareness thing for. And now we'll come around and do the proclamation and join for a picture. Right here. There he is. All right. Here you go. You're going to get good at this. Now we'll do the first picture with us. And now everybody. Have you lived in Walnut Creek long now?
It's about 3 years.
3 years, so you just started doing some of this stuff.
Yes. Lifelong.
Lifelong, yeah. There, you could hold it.
Those Sister City flags in there.
Thank you for volunteering on this. It's really important.
Thank you. I
Thank you
didn't
so
have
much.
much time to think about it.
That's okay.
But-
We're glad you guys, you could make it fit.
Is this for me? That's for you.
Now, our second proclamation tonight is on Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this is something that I know many people think, well, that's not a problem in Walnut Creek. But domestic violence knows no boundaries. It doesn't limit itself to one socioeconomic class or anything like that. It is everywhere, and it's something that we as parents need to make sure that we're educating our children as they're developing relationships to look for in a relationship. Is the person treating them with respect? Are they controlling them? Things like that. And it's important to educate it. And it's also important to reach out if you see somebody in your family, in your friend group that seems isolated, to make sure that they know that if they are experiencing somebody trying to control them, somebody trying to bully them into doing things they don't want to do, that they know that there's a place and a group of people that are willing to help and help them safely, because it is literally, I mean, we all as women think that we are in danger walking the streets at night, but unfortunately the statistics bear out the most dangerous a woman is at is with their domestic partner. And we'd wish that was not true, but it is. And so we are recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We've been recognizing it since 1989. And it's just a chance this year to say we are with survivors always, and we believe women when they come forward. And we recognize, advocate for victim service providers and organizations. And tonight I would like to invite Stand for Families Free of Violence, who work tirelessly to help prevent domestic violence and extend hope and healing to the survivors and victims of domestic violence. So come on forward, introduce yourselves, and then we'll come around and do the proclamation and the picture afterwards.
Well, I just want to thank you for that intro. Rather than just calling us up, you really highlighted the importance of this issue, and I really appreciate that, especially with so many young people in the room. I think it's really important. So my name is Robin Binder. I'm the Client Services Director, one of two Client Services Directors at STAND, and I'm joined by Leah Johansson, who is our Clinical Coordinator. And I just want to thank you for having us and for participating in this proclamation and for recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As you said, it's an incredibly important issue. It's important that the community is aware of some of the risks, but also some of the services. I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the work that we do very, very briefly. So STAND for Families Free of Violence is an agency that serves all of Contra Costa County. We offer a 24/7, 365 crisis line, crisis and resource line. You can reach out anytime. We receive between 12,000 to 15,000 calls per year for people looking for support or resources. We serve approximately 240 families in our emergency shelter, 10 families in our transitional housing units, and assist 5 to 10 families in finding permanent supportive housing following our services each year. We also offer a wide variety of services for community members who don't reside with us, including prevention-based support groups for approximately 1,000 to 2,000 teens a year, a youth against violence leadership program, and individual therapy for 100-ish children that are exposed to domestic violence each year, and roughly 100 participants in our nonviolence program, which is our batterers intervention program. Another way that we serve the community is through our lethality assessment protocol, which is a differentiated response aimed at decreasing the domestic violence homicide rate. In Contra Costa County, we've seen a 50% reduction in DV homicides in jurisdictions that partner with STAND in our LAP program. Walnut Creek Police Department is one of our active partners in the LAP program since 2020, and we're so grateful for the partnership and so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Did you want to say anything? Just introduce yourself.
What she said. I'm Leah, and I manage the children's counseling program, and it's very taxing and very fulfilling work, and I can't see myself doing anything different.
All right, thank you both for the work you do. I think we should give them a big round of applause. And now, we will do the whole picture thing.
Great, let's do it.
All right, and now it is time. I'd like to invite the chaperones, Amanda Landis and Jen Pickett, up to introduce the next presentation.
All right. Good evening. Thank you to the council for the opportunity for all of these amazing young ambassadors to speak to you tonight. My name is Jennifer Pickett, and I'm a teacher in the Walnut Creek School District. This year, I had the privilege of serving as a teacher chaperone for the Walnut Creek chapter of Sister Cities International's Youth Ambassador Exchange, or YAY, an extraordinary life-changing experience for Walnut Creek students and all who participate. WCSCI is a community-run nonprofit dedicated to fostering peace through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation, one individual, one community at a time. Since 2012, the year that many of our participants were born, WCSCI has organized an annual Youth Ambassador Exchange for 8th grade students, connecting Walnut Creek with our two sister cities, Noceto, Italy, and Schiafolk, Hungary. The two exclamation points in YAY represent the connection between our sister cities and, in my opinion, the enthusiasm of all who are involved in this program. Through a 10-day homestay abroad each fall, students live with host families, attend local schools, and experience life as teenagers in another culture. Although not organized by the city or the school district, the exchange enjoys strong support from each. We are grateful for that, as well as from parent and teacher chaperones who help ensure a safe and enriching experience. The program is entirely volunteer-run, with coordination from WCSCI members and each year's participating families. During Host Week, the following spring, our Italian and Hungarian guests visit Walnut Creek. It's a chance for the American families to reciprocate the warmth and hospitality their children received abroad.
My name is Amanda Landis, and I was honored to go with these young children and my fellow chaperones to Shea Folk Hungry. I'm also a proud Walnut Creek's teacher at Tice Creek. I teach 7th and 8th grade, and I got to meet, I had a couple of my own students, but I also had more and got to learn more about more of the students here in Walnut Creek, and it was a life-changing experience. I had the most amazing time, and I am so grateful for the support of the city and for Deborah and Kristen and all of your hard work. I can't even put into words how much this trip meant to me, even though I didn't even have any of my own kids with me. But it makes me want to plan for my youngest child to be able to do something like this, because it is an incredible opportunity for all of these young human beings and for the young human beings in Shea Folk and Nocheto. So thank you.
Thank you.
So first up, sorry about that. For the Hungry Ambassador Group, we're going to start with our people. We've got 11 people who came to Hungry with me, and we're going to start it off with Coulter Eisenberg. No pressure.
Hello, my name is Coulter Eisenberg. I go to school at Walnut Creek Intermediate, WCI. And one of my favorite memories from Shea Folk Hungry was the Talpoco Lake Cave, because I have never done anything like it, and it kind of traces back to the fact that I wanted to be a marine biologist when I get older. The water in the lake cave was extremely clear. It was naturally filtered as well, so you could just pick it up and drink it. And every once in a while you see a fish swim by, so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And very brave to go first.
Hi, my name is Donna Asani, and I went to, Hungry, and I go to Tice Creek Middle School. This is a photo of me and my match piano on our first day, and I chose it because we really bonded and clicked that day, and I really enjoyed how she took me to explore Nocheto together, Shea Folk together, and it just reminds me of our time together and all of our fun moments on this trip. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa, and I go to WCI. I chose the Tapoca Cave as my most memorable moment because it was very fun and it showed teamwork. Even though only one person had the paddle, we all helped out, and it was just a really fun experience. Thank you.
My name is Gavin Curdy. I go to Tice Creek School, and I went to Shea Folk Hungry. My favorite experience was going to the ranch on the second day because I got to bond with every Hungarian, and I had a lot of fun there doing ranch activities and just having a great time and bonding. Thank you for your time.
My name is Kai Steinberg. I go to WCI. I went to Shea Folk Hungry, and some of my favorite things were meeting all the Hungarians. They were awesome. The Americans were awesome too, meeting new people. And I really like seeing how they do things differently, across the world. It was an important experience for me. And I don't know if I've ever laughed more ever in my life than on the trip, especially on the train with Gavin. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Kira. I go to WCI, and my favorite moment of the trip was me and the Hungarians and the Americans, we all went around and gave each other hugs, and it was really sweet, and I miss them.
Hi, my name is Kevin Yoder, and I go to WCI. One of the most memorable parts for me was when I visited the Shoes on the Danube with my match on Family Day. The story behind it is in World War II, they lined up the Jews and shot them into the river. But before that, they took their shoes off because they were expensive. And it really just stuck with me that they valued the cost of the shoes more than the lives of the Jews themselves. And I still think about it to this day.
Lila, unfortunately, is not with us tonight.
Hi, my name is Ria Lokesh, and I go to Foothill Middle School, and my favorite part of this trip was the farewell party because we got to perform our dance that we made for the Hungarians. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Reese Devine. My favorite part, I go to Foothill in 8th grade. My favorite part of the trip was going to Budapest. We learned a lot about the history of the Parliament and a bunch of the history from the King's era. Thank you.
My name is Spencer Regenstein. I go to Foothill Middle School. My favorite part of the trip was Family Day because we got to see some really cool places like this castle right here. And I also just really liked the group dynamic of the whole group. It made the trip a lot more fun and memorable for me. Thank you.
All right, so we're moving on to Noceto. Our delegation traveled to Noceto, Italy, a sister city partnership established in 1987. Noceto, meaning walnut tree, is a picturesque town in the Emilia-Romagna region near Parma, known for its historic charm, welcoming community, and rich culinary traditions, including nocino, a nut liqueur, its world-renowned ham, prosciutto di Parma, and Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. Our 14 incredible student ambassadors were each paired with an Italian host sibling, joining in school visits, cultural outings, and family activities. Watching them form genuine friendships and grow in confidence was truly inspiring for the three of us chaperones. After one group event, several American students rode bikes home through the town with their host families. Many of the kids enjoyed exploring the city after dark without an adult. On the train home, after a day spent together exploring Cinque Terre and swimming in the Ligurian Sea, we couldn't help but smile as the American and Italian students bonded over music lyrics and talk of celebrity crushes, including romance apps. They are teenagers, after all. As chaperones, we were especially proud of how our Walnut Creek students came together as a team, sharing openly, supporting one another, and problem solving with maturity and kindness. Traveling abroad isn't always easy, but they faced each challenge with empathy, and courage, reaching out for guidance when needed. Seeing their growth in confidence, compassion, and collaboration was one of the most rewarding parts of the journey. An unforgettable moment of joy came when our students performed their self-choreographed dance and rocked it. And the Italian crowd began chanting, "Dip wee," which means more, more. Their host siblings jumped in for a second performance, a spontaneous celebration of connection that captured the very heart of this program. These are the memories we'll hold forever in our hearts as they they embody the Sister Cities Yay mission, creating transformative opportunities that foster independence, global awareness, and lifelong friendship. Before the Nocetan ambassadors speak, I, on behalf of the 25 incredible Yay ambassadors, 6 magnificent chaperones, and their families, would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the Yay coordinators, Kristen Decker and Deborah Knipp, and Walnut Creek Sister Cities, and all involved in putting on this program for your dedication and countless hours ensuring this program continues. It continues to create meaningful lifelong memories for Walnut Creek students and their families. Congratitudine infinita and kusunun.
Hi, my name is Alex Hill. I go to Foothill Middle School. I'm in 8th grade. My favorite part of the trip was hanging out with my host family because they were super kind and nice. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amelia Pickett. I go to WCI, Walnut Creek Intermediate, and my favorite part was meeting my host sister, Marta, because she was just really special, and most of our talks were like in on our phones, so it was really fun to see her in person, and I really miss her. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Benny Giardini. I go to Tice Creek Middle School, and I went to Nocheto. One of my favorite experiences from the trip is going to Milan and getting to walk around and talk with our ambassadors and really getting to know them. Thank you.
My name's Callie Dudley. I'm an 8th grader at Foothill Middle School. And something I learned on this trip is you need to live in the moment and don't be constantly taking photos, because the memories you make and the memories I made while I was in Italy for this week are going to last so much longer and be so much more vivid than the photos I took.
Hello, my name is Kieran Panu. I'm an 8th grader at Foothill Middle School. My favorite part of this trip was just being a part of something that was bigger than myself, getting to truly be in someone else's shoes and just change as a person. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Luke Davini, and I go to Tice Creek. One of my favorite memories from Italy was probably going to my match's grandparents' house, because I felt like I really bonded with them, and we played soccer and frisbee, and I just really got to know the family. I also really enjoyed the history and just meeting all the people in Italy. It was an amazing experience.
Hi, my name is Madeline. I go to WCI, and I'm a part of the Italian delegation. This is a photo of me and my ambassador and my host family at the farewell party. This moment was so meaningful to me because it really summed up my week. I care so much about them, and I will never forget moments, small moments like making pesto pasta from scratch or watching the Wicked movie, but in Italian. And I actually told my mom the other day that I was feeling a little homesick, and I just missed them so much. And I want to thank you, Walnut Creek Sister Cities, for such an incredible experience. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Oliver Breedy. I go to Walnut Creek Intermediate Middle School. My favorite part of the trip would probably be swimming in Cinque Terre with everybody in the group, including the Italians. I feel like everybody just really bonded in that moment. We played games on the beach after, like volleyball, and it was just a really fun moment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Peyton Butler. I'm a 13-year-old student who goes to Tice Creek Middle School, and this photo is me and my ambassador with my ambassador's little sister eating lunch at the grandpa's house. And my favorite memory was probably Cinque Terre, because I spent a lot of time with my ambassador and a lot of time like exploring Italy, and I feel like it was just a really great experience. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victoria Jenkins. I go to Tice Creek Middle School, and I went to Nocheto, Italy. And my favorite memory was an afternoon in Cinque Terre, because this was the day that I feel like me and my match Sophia really clicked, and I ate so much focaccia, and it's one of my favorite foods now.
Hi, my name is Willa Pickett. I go to Walnut Creek Intermediate, and one of my favorite memories from the trip was meeting my host family and getting to know my host sister, Julia. We had so many fun times together, and they even taught me how to eat pasta the authentic Italian way, which I was terrible at, but I had so much fun on this trip, and I want to thank everybody.
Hello, my name is Javier Contreras. I am a 14-year-old student at Walnut Creek Intermediate. My favorite part of the trip was going to the Parmesan factory in Parma, because it is an important part of Italian culture, being exclusively made in Parma for reasons I do not know, but I wish to find out. Thank you.
My name is Xavier Montero. I attend Walnut Creek Intermediate. My favorite part of the trip was the beach day in Cinque Terre when we went to the beach and explored. Which town was it that we walked around?
We went to you're thinking on the beach in Monte Rosa?
No,
Porto Venere.
Yeah, that one. I can't pronounce it. But it was really amazing, especially the old church that gave such a good view of the ocean and all the fascinating places that we went to over the trip. It was a really good time, and I will never forget it.
Hi, my name is Yuval Levi Maruk. I go to Foothill Middle School. This is a photo of me and Benny over there on top of a castle on Friday that we went to. But my favorite part of the trip was going to Milan and walking around for 9 miles. And then, so fun, the train station was closed because there was a soccer game, so we had to walk to another one. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Decker, and I'm one of the co-directors of the YAY program. And I hope that what each of you can take away from this is that we're not only uniting the Walnut Creek kids, but we are definitely uniting the kids with their hosts in both Nochetto and in Chiafolk. This is definitely, like Callie brought up, a life-changing opportunity, and we really enjoy the support of the city in this. And our hope really is that we bring empathetic kids and families to this program to get this once-in-a-lifetime experience. So thank you again for your support.
You guys want to do a picture?
Of course.
Okay.
Callie, is that okay?
Thank you guys for all being here. Now all the young people can come up, and you guys can be the short people, and we'll be behind you.
Well, I guess that's a good one. Or is there a slide? You were like, you're fine. So far.
Okay. All people from Nochetto and Chiafolk. Boop, boop, boop. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. Does any council member wish to pull an item for discussion? Or any member of the staff wish to pull anything? Anyone? Anyone?
Would like to make a comment about one item.
You would like to make a
Item
comment but not pull?
2C. 2C.
2C.
I can't think with the amount of noise that's in the hallway.
I know. Why don't you just go ahead and make, if it's just a remark, why don't we go ahead and do that, and then we'll do it as a whole.
Well, if anyone from engineering staff or arts and recreation staff can hear this, I really want to thank you for all of the work that you did on the Tice Valley fields and the lights. It has been a long time coming. I was on that soccer board for 6 years, and that's all anybody talked about was lights and all-weather turf. So it's finally great to get one of those items accomplished thanks to Measure O.
And would you like to make, does any member of the public wish to address us on anything on the consent calendar? It's a 2-minute limit. Anyone? Seeing no one, I will bring back up here for a motion.
Move to approve the consent calendar items 2A through 2E.
And I'll note there is an addendum changes for 2D. So would that be incorporated into your motion?
Well, she's still discussing. Yep. A second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Silva?
Aye.
Councilmember Davini?
Aye.
Councilmember Francois?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk?
Aye.
Mayor Darling?
Aye. All right, next on the agenda is public communication, and this portion of the meeting is reserved for comments on items not on the agenda. And under the Brown Act, the council cannot act on items raised during public communication, but we may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. We may request clarification or refer the item to staff. Consistent with Section 9.5 of the City Council Handbook, 30 minutes will be allocated at this time for public communication for items not on the agenda. Additional time for public communications for items not on the agenda will be provided at the end of the meeting. Written comments submitted have been posted to the city's website for public review and are included in the meeting record, but will not be read separately into the record. At this time, I will note that it is 6:39 and we will go till 7:09. So step on forward and you get your 2 minutes.
Good evening, council, mayor, council members, and other fine people in front of me. I'm Linda Rymack Kohlberg. I'm here this evening representing Shadelands Walnut Creek, which you'll be happy to hear is hosting once again its annual Made in the Shade Fall Festival, this year on Sunday, November 2nd, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Shadelands Sports Mall, 2640 Shadelands Drive. It's free and family-friendly, and it's a popular all-community Made in the Shade Fall Festival. And you're wondering what to expect, and I will tell you. Non-stop live music, food trucks, ice cream, craft beer. Cali Craft will be bringing its best craft beers and drinks to the table. Exhibitors representing Shadelands and businesses and nonprofits outside of Shadelands. Giveaways, face painting, demonstrations, sports activities for all ages, including yoga, soccer, gymnastics, basketball, taekwondo, and batting cages, and again, free and family-friendly. Making special appearances will be the Project Pink Wheels Pink Fire Engine, a big pink fire engine that goes around different locations, bringing awareness, cancer awareness, to people and populations out there. It'll be out there honking its horn and rolling its siren, and the doors are open and the kids can jump on in and see what it's like to sit inside a fire engine. And the Joybound People and Pets mobile adoption van. Also, branded Made in the Shade sunglasses will be available as long as supplies last. So visit Made in the Shade. That's visitshadelands.com/madeshade for more details, for more descriptions, for a list of food trucks that will be there and exhibitors. Thank you so much. I will add that Made in the Shade is presented by Shadelands Walnut Creek. Hope to see you
Linda.
all there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members and members of the public. My name is Kayla Ternage, and I'm a field representative for Assemblywoman Avila Farias of District 15. And with the conclusion of the legislative session, we wanted to provide you all with an update on the legislative work the Assemblywoman has accomplished. So 8 of her bills have been signed into law by Governor Newsom, each inspired by the needs and voices of the Contra Costa community. The Assembly member has put forward policies that make a real difference, expanding access to affordable housing and child care, supporting families experiencing homelessness, protecting voter rights, and is strengthening our education system. These new laws will build stronger, more equitable communities and ensure that every Californian has an opportunity to thrive. Working with her colleagues, the Assembly member helped secure $3 billion in annual electricity bill credits to help lower utility costs during the hottest months of the year. Additionally, she worked to extend California's Cap and Invest program to stabilize gas prices and clean energy jobs. Beyond policy, our district office is engaging in the community and hosting several events in October. Our Fall Festival and Pumpkin Giveaway on October 24th in our district office from 3 to 7. Our Coffee Meet and Greet in Brentwood on October 5th from 9 to 11 a.m. And lastly, our Immigration Town Hall on October 27th at Los Medanos College, and that is from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. We look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And let the Assembly member know that if she ever wants to come and do a tour of Walnut Creek, later when we get to announcements, we'll talk about Senator Grayson came and did that, and we are always willing and eager to host any of our elected representatives who want to get a little tour of Walnut Creek and
Wonderful.
see some
Thank you
things
so
going
much.
on. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Okay. And seeing no other public comment, we will close that and bring it back up here. City Attorney, is there anything to report out from closed session?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council this evening in closed session authorized by a 5-0 vote a settlement agreement with the Heather Farm Gardens, and also directed that we bring back a lease agreement for council consideration and public input at your next regular City Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Now on to the city manager. Anything to report?
Yes, good evening. I have 3 updates tonight, and they're all positive news, which I think is a first for me in all the updates that I've provided. The first is that your council may recall quite some time back, the city applied for Pro-Housing Incentive Program, or PIP funds from the state for $1 million. Pleased to announce that we were awarded that funding. And it's nice that the information embargo is finally lifted, that we can share that information. So this is $1 million to be used to support affordable housing and homeless-related programs. We're working through all the details. It'll be a little while yet before the money is actually received. But wanted to thank your council for all of the policy guidance related to this matter, to staff for working through the application. And I'll just note, you may recall that Walnut Creek some time back received a pro-housing designation, and that was really instrumental in us receiving this grant. So it was a culmination of efforts. And most importantly, we'll be able to use this money to help folks in the community. The next 2 are folks that I'd like to recognize. I just thought I would, it's a bit unusual, but give a shout out. You may recall our consultant, Ken Hampion, who's done our priority setting for several years with the council. He is receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award from the International City County Management Association for his over 30 years of contribution to the profession, not only as a former city manager, but as an author, as an instructor, and certainly as a consultant and a mentor to many, including myself. So congratulations, Ken. My guess there's a good chance he's watching this because he is still a government nerd. So thank you, Ken, for all that you've done. And I should also note he is a Walnut Creek resident, possibly most importantly. And then last, want to recognize our city clerk, Susie Martinez, who recently received acknowledgement from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks for her continuing education and contribution and setting and meeting the high standards that are required of that accredited organization. And she just received that acknowledgement today. So thank you, Susie, for your commitment and your great work.
All right, and congratulations to all the staff and to Ken, because he is our resident and he helps us every year. we wouldn't be able to do the things we do without the staff. And whether it was figuring out what to do about Heather Farm, how to run the meetings, we couldn't do it without you guys. So next on the agenda is City Council member reports on AB 1234 activities and a chance to brief us all on what you've been doing. Councilmember DeFinney, you want to start tonight?
Sure, thank you. Good evening. Had a few fun events over the last couple weeks. Most of us here were down at Cal Cities in Long Beach for sort of city education, advocacy, connecting with different cities and council members and mayors across the state. And I had a great time there. And I had a short story from there. We were listening to a parking lecture, which may not sound interesting, but I was actually quite intrigued by the lecture. And the woman who was running it said she started off by writing tickets to college students at UC Santa Barbara. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh yeah, I know this lady. She's written me tickets before when I used to go to college there. So it was a small world. Attended Taste of Walnut Creek, which had 30 different restaurants. It's an annual event. You buy one ticket, and then you get to walk around town and sample all the restaurants downtown, or almost all of them. It was a really fun event, and it's a great way in the future to get to know all of our restaurants downtown. I found where a couple were located that I'd heard the names and hadn't quite figured out where they were, so had a good time doing that as well. Had a tour of the Lesher. Thank you to Carolyn Jackson and to Emily Enders as well, who did the Bedford Gallery portion of the tour. It was very interesting to go backstage and see, especially in the main theater, the size of the equipment there, the scale of it is just quite impressive. You don't necessarily appreciate that when you're out in the seating area. So there are many other interesting areas as well, and the Observations of Life art exhibit is still at the Bedford. It'll be there till December 14th, so go check it out. Let's see. Attended Coffee with a Cop at Rossmore. This was a very impressive event. It totally exceeded my expectations. We had, Chief Knox, Captain Hibbs, Captain Slater, and maybe 20 other members of city staff and police there. About 150 residents, mostly from Rossmore. Broke out into tables. Police officer sat at each table, and it was a great connection event between law enforcement and our residents. So I look forward to attending more of those Coffee with a Cop events. And finally got a tour of Heather Farms Phase 1. Thank you, Rich Payne, for the tour. And what I would say is at this point you don't see a lot because there's a lot of this sort of like infrastructure upgrades, but it really expanded the natural lake there and opened up the visibility. So that's something you'll appreciate immediately when you walk through the space, is really that lake that's always been there but not quite as visible is now very prominent and quite pretty.
Thank you. Councilmember Silva?
Thank you very much. On the same note as the annual conference of the League of California Cities, there were a number of good sessions. I agree with you, the parking session was very interesting and very good, but it was most important was that basically we do 95% of the things that the consultant recommends. So we're a top performer. And they had a police officer, captain, I was police chief of Seal Beach, explaining how they were managing parking, and they were doing it the inverse that we would do it downtown, and they realized they were doing it incorrectly, and so they've changed their methods. Also attended 2 other sessions, one on Santa Ana's streamlining efforts related to building and permitting, and I passed that information on to our staff, and one on the general plan update process and how to be more efficient with that. The mayor was there, the city manager, and we were in 3 different parts of the room, and we came away with the same impression at the back of the room at the end of the session. So hopefully that brings them some new ideas for that. Also during the conference, this board of the League of California Cities had its 5th meeting of the year, and I was re-elected to sit as a director at large and sworn in on Friday at the general meeting. And then also as an announcement, I have been appointed to the board of the Institute for Local Government, which is a nonprofit that represents and provides services to local government across the state, counties, cities, and special districts. And I will be serving on that board. And finally, I will mention, and we will be talking about it later this evening, there have been a lot of meetings over the last few weeks and months related to the ABAG and the MTC, Transit-Oriented Community Strategy, and we'll talk about that later.
Thank you. Councilmember Francois, what have you been up to?
Thank you, Mayor. As a liaison to the Chamber's Economic Development Working Group, I attended their October 15th meeting, which was in person, and we had a wide-ranging discussion about the future of business in Walnut Creek. We talked a lot about AI, and I think it was a discussion that there's interest in attracting AI to Walnut Creek, and it's what type of AI, where, and it might take the form of a satellite campus. We also had kind of discussions about the vacancy rates with office space in and around downtown, with the office complexes on California and Mount Diablo being almost pretty well leased up, and same with Grower Square, given its proximity to downtown and the amenities and the services. And then just a few blocks beyond, kind of near the BART station and the Golden Triangle, it's a bit of a different picture. We're still doing well, relatively speaking, compared to some other communities in the Bay Area. But it opened the conversation to what could it be? How can we reactivate that space? There was some conversation. AI was part of that discussion. Also education and the future, the evolving nature of higher education, community college, four-year colleges that may be looking beyond the traditional campus environment to splitting that up and offering instruction in a more traditional office setting. So I think it's interesting thing to keep in mind as we go through our general plan update and associated rezoning process. There was also a fair amount of conversation about flexible zoning and parking standards. A little bit of a discussion about Measure A. I think we'll have a further discussion on that at our next meeting, which is November 19th. So all in all, a great group. We show up bright and early at 7:30 in the morning, and Bob feeds us, and people really brought a lot of great ideas. And I thank Erica Vandenbrand, our community development director, for being there as well, and touting our housing forum that's coming up a little later this month. Okay, I think I covered that one. Then on Saturday, and I won't steal the mayor's thunder on this, I did have the opportunity to attend the No Kings rally that was held at Broadway Plaza, and was very impressed with really seemingly, I know the police were there, but I didn't see them, and there were estimated 5,000 peaceful protesters, pro-Americans, exercising their First Amendment right, and the mayor spoke, and I'll let her speak to that. But I was glad to see that go off without any issues or hitches here in Walnut Creek. And then just finally, right after that, I went to the farmer's market on Sunday, and I had a good conversation with several folks there. I did misplace my license, though, on the way to the farmer's market, and I was getting a little panicked because I have a trip planned later this week. So where I'm going with this is I'd like to give a shout out to Officer Greg Swift, who's a relatively new member, I think, to the department, who not only tracked down us at home and called us and said, I've got your wallet, I've got your driver's license, I got it from Starbucks this morning. And I said, okay, he had no idea who I was. At least he has a good poker face. He didn't let on at all. He said, I'm right outside your door. I drove over and I delivered your license to you. So I thank you for going above and beyond, and I know that you guys would give that treatment to anybody in the community, and it's really well appreciated. And that's my update.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, what you been doing?
Thank you. And I actually heard from several people that there were so many people that were downtown for the No Kings rally that they couldn't actually make it up the sidewalk and walking. They had to pretty much stand put, and going upstream was just about impossible. So it's great to hear that there was truly just a terrific community rally for that. As we heard from some of the other council members, I attended the League of Cities annual conference. What's great about that is the sessions are terrific, but it's really understanding so many of our colleagues that are other council members and mayors up and down the state that are experiencing the exact same issues that we are, whether it's parking, whether it's e-bikes, or fire mitigation, all these kind of things that we're able to work together and collaborate and come up with somewhat, either whether it's solutions or movement in the right direction. And so I really get so much out of that, and it's great to see that level of involvement. We had 4 of our council members, as well as our city manager and assistant city manager, and I think we represented Walnut Creek well. As a liaison to the Diablo Regional Arts Association, we had the board meeting last week, and on Broadway was the most successful fundraising night that DRAA has ever had. Exceeded everything that we'd ever done previously. Great to see that because we know how important the arts are, and after everything that's happened in the last 5 to 10 years, COVID in there, the Lesher Center of the Arts is the major arts arena and area in the entire East Bay. It really is. There are a couple of places in Berkeley that would probably argue with that, but for what I hear from not just myself and my wife, but from people in the community, this is really where it's at. So it's great to see that those donations and the DRA continue to thrive. And along with that, the Center Rep has its next production, Woman in Black, that'll be from November 5th through November 23rd, described by the San Francisco Chronicle as a white-knuckle thriller. So we'll find out. Then there were several of things that I attended with the mayor in attendance as well, and I won't go into detail on all of these, so you'll still have something to talk about. One of them was the Rossmore Diversity Festival, and again, I think that this is terrific to see in our community with hundreds of people that come together, a variety of different, whether it's ethnicities or cultures, all coming together to help understand and educate what their upbringing was and what it's like in the areas of the world that they're from. And the mayor spoke at that. Again, it's just a terrific festival and so needed at this time. As the liaison for County Connection, I mentioned at the last meeting that we were reviewing the Route 4 and that we were going to be voting on some slight changes to our free shuttle on Route 4. The board did approve those changes. There was a couple of people from the community that had some outreach mentioning this could be a little bit more inconvenient for them. We're working with them. Hopefully they understand a little bit more now that by it being lead times now of every 15 minutes for the shuttle rather than every 20 minutes, it'll actually be more convenient. And if it's not stopping right where they were before, which is typically at South Broadway and Newell, it's a couple of blocks to where the stop is. So it shouldn't be a problem. That said, County Connection staff will be working to make sure to listen to any kind of resident concerns that happen once this comes into effect in January. So beware of that, especially if you take whether you get on or off the bus at the south end of Broadway Plaza. And CCTA, Contra Costa County Transit Authority, had a workshop yesterday looking at some of the vision that's happening in the future. We're talking long-range vision, 10 years, 20 years of how we can work together to make sure that transportation works most effectively and get people out of their cars and onto public transit or make it more efficient for whatever they're doing. And then lastly, today I was joined with the mayor at White Pony Express, where we helped them to onboard some food that came from, I guess there were donations from Whole Foods. Okay, donations from Whole Foods. We loaded the van, off it went to help feed those people that are in need. And that it's great to actually have hands-on with some of these events where we know what we're doing is turning into immediate solutions for people that are in need. So that's my update.
Thank you. It's been a busy couple weeks. As I mentioned to the Assembly member staff, we did a tour with Senator Grayson. The city manager, Mayor Pro Tem, and I took him around. We walked around Broadway Plaza and talked about smash and grab, Prop 36, all the different kinds of things that we're doing to cut down on crime in that area. Then we jumped in the van, and this is the point at which it started to rain like nobody's business. And of course, we had left all of our umbrellas in the van. But we took him down to Trinity Center, and he had never really been there. We got Okay, we are back in session, and next on the agenda is consideration of the item to approve transmittal of a comment letter to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission regarding the transit-oriented communities policy and its implementation. And I invite Community Development Director Erica Vanderbrand forward to provide us an excellent presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Council. Again, I'm Erica Vandenbrand, Community Development Director, and I'll just start with the presentation. So overall, to share with you the TOC policy requirements, its implementation, and then call for flexibility. So whenever the MTC adopted its TOC policy in September of 2022, it had 4 goals: to increase affordable housing supply in transit areas, increase the density for commercial office development, and prioritize transit and active transportation near stations, and then also to create equitable and transit-oriented communities. Now recall that in 2022, there were a lot of things going on, one of which was we were coming out of COVID, and then the other is that the jurisdictions in the Bay Area, we were all in the midst of updating our housing element. So this policy is intended to be used by MTC for funding. And so for funding, it's a future One Bay Area grant. So in the past, we have received quite a bit of funds, most recently about $8 million through OBAG 3. But there's also the potential to apply it to other discretionary funds, transportation funding, as well as regional housing bonds if they're ever put on the ballot and passed. So why this matters is what level of compliance is actually needed in order to access the funding. So is it you have to be fully compliant, partially compliant, or where on a scale? Now, this is important in terms of priority development areas. So this was a concept that was first initiated in 2008. And these PDAs, although this isn't showing up properly on, on the screen, they were voluntary. And it was a collaborative process. And it served as the foundation for our West and North downtown specific plans. And this was something that was sponsored by MTC and worked in concert with the city and then the community to develop further plans. So again, the PDA is the area I guess, stepping back for 1 second, we have 2 areas which are subject to this TOC policy. One is around the Walnut Creek BART station, and the other is around the Pleasant Hill BART station. And the area on the left that has the, I guess it's bounded by the black is the PDA. The circle is 1/2 mile around the BART station, the TOC area. And then the green area is the West Downtown Specific Plan, and then the yellow area is the North Downtown Specific Plan. And you can see that these specific plans are a subset within that PDA. It was done with intention to be able to focus growth around our transit station in the Walnut Creek Park Station. On the right-hand side, there's also a PDA, which is the Contra Costa Center PDA, and as well as the city boundaries. But what you see there is that the PDA around the Contra Costa area, the station, does not include the city, and it's within the county. And these are important as we go through and look further. One other particular thing of note over here is that the geographic areas of the PDA and then also the planning areas for the specific plans were done voluntarily in concert with both MTC and the city, whereas the circle that's 1/2 mile radius around the stations is just a blanket unilateral approach to an area around the BART stations. So give you a little bit of context around the Walnut Creek BART station. So the idea of a half-mile radius is intended to be about a 10-minute walk or so. And keep in mind that it's a 10-minute walk, not a 10-minute flight, which is really important, because if you look at two particular areas that on the far left-hand side that are identified in the with the two red dots, that is about a half-mile radius. And so if you walk, that's as far as you can get. So all the rest of the area that's to the left of the 680 really is outside a half-mile capture zone. But the policy does not recognize that. Second thing is that if you look at the topography, it also doesn't recognize the fact that there is a freeway there that acts like a river. And so if you look at the picture on the top right-hand side, it really shows you what it's like to cross over that river and get to the one point in the walk zone. And also on the opposite side of, on the west side of 680, what we have there is a very steep terrain, and it really is not conducive to the types of land use densities that they're asking for that I'll talk about in just a moment. Similarly, around the Pleasant Hill BART TOC area, on the right-hand side, you can walk. The Google doesn't let you put a dot in the middle of the freeway, so we had to go a little bit further. But so it's about 0.6 of a mile as opposed to half a mile. But you can walk to the end of the freeway, cross over the freeway from the Pleasant Hill BART station, or you could walk to the IHOP going the other way, and that's really about half-mile distance. And so all the area that is to the left in the capture zone really is far outside of what a half-mile walk would actually be. So why this matters is because there are 4 components that that a jurisdiction needs to be compliant with for this policy to be eligible for funding. One are densities for both residential and commercial, which gives you 25 points. And then there's affordable housing, which gives you another 25 points for housing policies from what they call the 3 Ps: production, preservation, protection, and also commercial stabilization. And then you have the transportation side of the house, the parking management, and then transit station access and circulation. And those count for an additional 50 points altogether. So we're okay, generally speaking, on the transportation side. We don't have parking maximums for most of the area, but we're not dinged significantly in terms of the number of points. But on the density and housing, there are significant issues which arise. So specifically, on the residential side, so in order to be compliant, that increases the densities that are above our certified housing element quite substantially to 50 units per acre minimum over that entire area. So it's evaluated for the entire circle area that I'd showed you earlier, not just simply the north downtown and west downtown areas. We are not able to meet those residential densities at either the Walnut Creek or the Pleasant Hill TOC areas. And we don't see a scenario that, with the way that things are currently constructed, that we would ever be able to meet it. And that even the area in the rubric, as we've been calling it, to be able to get partial credit, we don't even meet a partial credit because they have so much area that is not zoned with that level of density. It also requires an intensified housing capacity near the BART station, which directly contradicts the guidance that we are given by HCD and for our housing element, that if we're going to be needing to add additional capacity, either to have a buffer area or to have a mid-plan review, then we would need to be looking at areas that were outside of the transit area and single-family homes. So single-family home zoned area. So just so that you're aware of that.
Can I ask a question on that one, Eric, on the 50 units in here? So is it true that we meet that standard generally within the PDA area, but we don't meet it within the entire half-mile radius circle?
We don't meet it within the half-mile radius circle, and the way that we're able to get there in the PDA or the North Downtown and West Downtown specific plans particularly is that we have developed, there are projects that have yielded that amount or greater, but they've had density bonus, which is allowed by state law, but this policy doesn't allow us to take credit for. And then also in the North Downtown specific plan, there's community benefits, and upon which the density bonus can be on top of it. And so we've been able to get many projects that would get those types of yields in terms of multifamily housing, but the way that they have it calculated, we can't meet that requirement. Similarly, for the commercial office density, and for those of you who have been listening to our business community, we've been hearing that there's a dearth of folks that really want to actually populate, the commercial office. But their requirement is that there be 2.0 FAR or higher. And we don't meet those minimums at either the Walnut Creek or the Pleasant Hill transit-oriented community areas. On the left-hand side, there's a map from our general plan, and there are certainly parcels that meet it, but whenever you take the entire area that's in that circular area for the commercial densities, we don't meet it. The other thing, too, is that the policy has not considered economic impacts, and so that the densities that are being proposed for the commercial office and the commercial areas really contradict what our specific plan strategy is to try and move certain businesses like the different automobile dealerships, et cetera, out of the downtown to allow density with near the BART station. And it doesn't recognize the economic implications for the city and doesn't provide for a way to be able to have an alternate pathway. Okay, then there's what is called the 3 Ps, which in housing element speak was affirmatively furthering fair housing. So we went through a very substantial effort, as you are so well aware, to go through work with the state HCD to get our housing element adopted and certified, so that the requirements that this MTC TOC policy has exceeds what was required for our housing element by the state. And this is not fully inclusive, but it highlights many of the policies and the challenges that are there. So that, for example, the city of Walnut Creek has an inclusionary housing policy of 10%. The TOC policy would require 15%. And what we've been hearing from the development community is that even 10% is, a push. And in order to prove to MTC that 15% is not viable, we would have to undertake a very significant and costly study to demonstrate that. And this is despite the fact that even the builder's remedy projects only require 13% affordability. Similarly, there's a group of policies that are options that you can choose amongst, and these funding policies this one has a $4 million commitment over 4 years to be devoted toward affordable housing. Even in the best of years, the kind of revenue that we receive only accounts for up to $2.8 million, and that's assuming that we have significant commercial development occurring, so we get commercial linkage fees and then fee in lieu for housing.
Excuse me, the 2.8 million, that's averaged across a number of years to see what we get.
Correct.
In 4 years?
Yes.
That's 4 years.
That's 4 years worth.
Versus 4 million.
That's correct.
Great.
Legal assistance, so that the policy requires 300,000 over 4 years, and we have over 4 years 33,000 devoted from our community development block grant funds. Similarly, fair housing enforcement, 300,000 over 4 years. We have 24,000 over that same time period. There's also options for foreclosure assistance, $300,000 over 4 years. We have zero devoted to that. And then public and community land trusts of $1.2 million over 4 years. We have zero because we don't have any public or community land trusts. So then going on to non-monetary policies, because it's not always about money. So there are rent stabilization, just cause eviction policies that we do not have in our housing element, but they would require if we don't choose one of the monetary elements. Or there are policies that are there for single room occupancy preservation or mobile home preservation, which we're not eligible for because we don't have those products within our community. And then there are also tenant anti-harassment protections, which again, we don't have in our certified housing element. So that's an overview and context, and so we've prepared for your consideration a letter, comment letter to go to MTC that first addresses the TOC policy requirements, the lack of clarity about how it would actually be used, the unworkable nature of the compliance options for policy implementation, and then also calling for flexibility and alternative paths for compliance that rely more on the PDAs and the work that substantial investment had been made by both MTC and our community. And the MTC board starts meeting tomorrow, but with this topic being taken up on Thursday morning to be able to have discussion. With that, I will end and answer any questions you have.
I'll just kick it off. So what you're looking for from us tonight is, in response to the challenges that you've laid out here, the staff recommendation is to put together a letter just saying, that's nice, but this is an option that we want to have as far as more flexibility.
More flexibility, and also for MTC's board to recognize that the implementation of the policy as MTC staff is currently recommending is not workable. And I guess I should also clarify that there's at least some level of recognition of that by MTC staff, and that just late this afternoon they sent a revised scoring matrix which rejiggers somewhat on the transportation side the points, but largely the points remain the same in their allocation on the housing and density side, which is where we have the most challenges.
Okay. Questions for staff? I know you have questions.
Well, I do, because thank you very much to staff for this and all the work that you've been putting into it. And I know it's both the transportation side and also the land use side. As a representative to the Executive Board of ABAG, we had an opportunity to look at this. And I will say this. Sitting on a regional board is very different from sitting on a board here. Staff assumes that they're right and that we will rubber stamp. And so they go very quickly through every slide. They don't pause for questions. And it's a bit hard to understand because they're stuffing 20 pounds of material in a 5-pound bag. So every slide has 5 pounds worth of material on it. I don't know if you see this at MCE, but you see this at MTC and you see it at ABAG. So some of my questions are really to try to get at the core concerns that I think we have from a flexibility standpoint, but I'm going to start with, are there other communities or agencies that are concerned about this?
There are, and the list of concerned entities, so this is part, but not entirely, so it includes the Walnut Creek Chamber of Commerce, East Bay Leadership Council, the cities of Concord, Orinda, and San Jose, the Chambers of Commerce for Concord, Pittsburgh, Livermore Valley, San Leandro, the San Mateo Chamber, and the San Mateo County Economic Development Association, the Alameda Chamber and Economic Alliance, the San Pablo EDC, and the Innovation Tri-Valley Leadership Group, along with the Realtors Associations for East Bay, Contra Costa, San Francisco, Santa Clara County, Silicon Valley, California Apartment Association, and the San Francisco Apartment Association.
What kind of response do you hear? I know the type of response I've heard when I raise issues. What type of response are you hearing when things like, when looking for greater flexibility, this doesn't work? What are the suggestions you hear?
Flexibility has been interpreted by staff because we really haven't had access directly to the board, but flexibility manifests in more complexity, and the request for greater flexibility shows more complexity. And so in your packet, you have the administrative guidance that is a little bit like putting your taxes together.
Only if you're doing alternative minimum tax.
That would be more fun, actually.
Can you go back to the map that showed where the West Downtown and North Downtown specific plans were? I think 4 of us were involved in these 2 specific plans, probably on the Planning Commission, on the Transportation Commission, then you came to council in 2016. Did we just do these out of the goodness of our heart, or was somebody else partnering with us on these?
So MTC and ABAG, had come up with the concept for these PDAs, and that was the impetus for doing these plans. And MTC provided over $1 million in match to our $500,000 in city commitment and staff time to produce these 2 plans. And so the West Downtown plan was adopted in 2018, and then the North Downtown specific plan was adopted in 2019, which in the planning world, the ink is barely dry.
So MTC invested $1 million of their collective monies from across the Bay Area in our 2 plans here. Did they have anything to say about the footprint of these plans or what the goals were?
So at the time that they were being proposed and the grants were awarded and then the plans were adopted, they were highly supportive and that these plans helped achieve a transit-oriented community.
So they're changing the goals, they're changing the goalposts, they're changing the game.
Yes. In a word, just yes.
So what's so sacrosanct about a half-mile circle around a transit station?
Well, there's nothing sacrosanct per se, and so what half a mile is meant in the transportation world is to represent about a 10-minute walk, which is a comfort area to be able to walk to transit. However, these are as the crow flies as opposed to as the person walks. And so that in many areas that are within this half-mile circumference or radius area, it's actually, half an hour or longer to be able to walk there. And on the west side of the freeway, not very pedestrian or bicycling-friendly conditions.
So I walked one of these. I walked up Oakvale this morning. It took from the corner of Trinity and Oakland across just the overpass took 2.5 to 3 minutes. You're huffing and puffing because it is a 30% rise at minimum. And then you have to turn and you have to huff and puff all the way up. It was close to 15 minutes total. And even walking downhill to the BART station took 16 minutes. And that was in walking shoes and not caring about what you looked like by the time you got there. There was a lot of density, additional density in housing units for both the North Downtown and the West Downtown specific plan areas. What did that look like when we were done? Because I think that got translated into our RENA numbers.
Yeah, so it was about, I guess, 3,600 units that were added, through the increased density. And whenever you take into account the buffer requirements for affordable housing for our housing element, it's just under half.
So roughly half of the new units that we planned for in the yellow and the green equated to half of what the units we planned for equated to about half of what we had to produce or promised to produce for our housing element.
Correct.
So did we just throw a dart at the wall at the housing element? Or I remember going around and around and around that there were tables and tables and tables that every site had to be certified that, in fact, it would produce the density.
That's entirely correct. So that the work that we had done to produce the North Downtown and West Downtown specific plans formed the foundation. And that from that foundation, we needed to apply the requirements for the state HCD and go through and justify each and every site. And that process was quite detailed, and in fact, through the public comment process, several sites ended up having to be taken out within this same area. And so there was quite a lot of work that went into it.
So when you say all this to the staff at MTC, what's their response?
Their staff says that that's the policy, and that in order to comply, that one must meet the compliance requirements. And if we're not able to or willing to make the changes, then we don't care enough about having access to the dollars.
So let me see if I can summarize that the way someone else expressed it to me as well, which is you don't care about the money, therefore you don't like our carrot, when in fact what lack of the funding is a stick.
So I would even go further. I would say that our community cares very deeply about having access to the funds, because it's very critical to be able to have safe streets, safe routes to school, and a lot of these access improvements that make our community safer and more accessible to transit. So I would make the opposite argument that based off of our past, and this council's past behavior, that we care very deeply.
So I think I'm going to start getting angry. Thank you, Erica.
For Tim?
Yeah, I have a question a little bit more related to the staff report regarding in lieu fees, and it mentioned that on one of the point scales that we don't have as many in lieu fees, therefore we're not going to get as many points. And why do you think the in lieu fees have been less than it was before? And it's my guess, but is it because that more developers are including affordable housing within their developments?
So it's a combination of that and the fact there's just simply been less development because of economic conditions.
So if I make the natural next step, we've got the state mandates which encourages development to have more affordable housing, and if they put more affordable housing, they get bonus units that they can put in the development projects. Therefore, they are building those. We're getting less in lieu fees for affordable housing and then being penalized for that. Do I get that right?
That logic is accurate.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I build? Well, actually, let me build on.
Let's finish going through everybody else.
So I always find when people sort of pose contradictory philosophies that, like, I try to get inside their head, like what, and I'm interested in the answers to the questions that Councilmember Silva brought up. But specifically when we talk about proposing like two contradictory, I mean, there's the circle, and then there's the planned development areas. Do they do they respond to that half-mile radius versus planned development areas? The fact that within a few years they're proposing like contradictory pathways to go about achieving, transit-oriented community status?
So, no, they don't. But not that I would characterize myself as getting inside anyone's head, but what I would say is that whenever this policy was being worked on and developed in the midst of COVID, it was prior to a lot of effort that had been put in by the state. And so this policy was adopted before we certainly, and in fact most of the Bay Area jurisdictions had our housing elements certified. So I guess that's one thing. Second thing is that, a good idea on paper and then how it manifests in the real world hadn't really been vetted because everyone was focused on coming out of COVID and then also our housing elements. And there had been legislation that had been kicking around for quite a while at the state level, which ultimately, most recently, resulted in the passage and the signing into law of SB 79, which talks about half-a-mile radius around major transit stops. However, Contra Costa County is not included in that state requirement. So this puts us out of sync with what state law requires currently.
And that SB 79, you had to have a city of greater than like 400,000, I think, in order to qualify for that? Was that?
So first you had to be in an urban transit county, and so you had to identify that there were certain levels of transit occurring and meet certain conditions, and Contra Costa County did not meet that condition.
Across, I know we're getting off a little bit, but around the state, how many counties did actually do roughly? I heard it was very few.
It was like 6 or 7. 8.
So we took this concept that only applied to 8 counties, and now we're okay. So I was curious if based on your preliminary projections, and I know there's a lot of uncertainty, what do you think will be the lack of fund, or how much funding will we not qualify for? If we were getting $8 million in OBAG 3, then what were we projecting for 4, and where do we see how much money we would be in a shortfall?
That is an excellent question, and it's one that I can't answer. And the reason why I can't answer it is because usually whenever a process like this goes through, you know what the goalposts look like. We don't know what the goalposts look like for what compliance level would one need in order to be eligible for OBAG 4 and subsequent funds, as well as for any future housing funds. And so that's an issue. And then the other issue is that in complying with even partially with these requirements, how many points is good enough? And that goalpost keeps changing too in response to feedback.
Because I'm seeing, roughly like $3 million we'd have to spend on the areas where we were short on our spending just to comply for points to then get maybe a few million back. Did we look at it through that?
I'm sure that all of you as council are looking through the lens of the budget and having just most recently had to close a budget gap.
Thank you.
Councilmember Francois.
Thanks, Erica. You kind of touched on it in response to Councilmember DeVinny's questions, but is there a rough idea of how many points we would need to be eligible for the same amount of funding we had received previously?
No, because again, that hasn't been established.
We're confident that 51 is too low.
Well, I'm not confident of much of anything at this point, quite honestly, because the point scoring, et cetera, keeps moving around. And, I had given you the most recent one in your council packet, and then there's a new one which was produced today.
And just generally then, the PDAs were developed not, I mean, I think there was a proximity to BART that factored into them, right? And it was done at a regional level. But then it was also reflecting kind of walkability and the economic factor, which I guess the straight half-mile radius doesn't take. What properties are likely to get redeveloped that are in close proximity to BART?
So the original PDAs were, there was a flavor, if you will, that was transit-oriented, and that's what, we see reflected in our community. And by putting a half-mile radius around an area, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the area that's there is conducive to the level of densities that they're requiring.
Right. And I'm in support. I mean, we'll get to the comments, I guess, in a little bit. Just kind of as a practical question, what, what ability do we have to influence? The policy is done now, as I understand it. So it's now the implementing guidelines. Are we still in the running to try to influence those and how this is implemented?
There is an MTC board retreat on Thursday dealing with this specific area, and I would say that the greatest potential is to influence its implementation, but if there's heartburn, we should, about the policy itself, we should also articulate that.
Okay, I thought of another question. Then looking out kind of on the landscape, what agencies are scoring 80 or, do we know, like 80 or above?
So, I guess two things. One is that City of Concord, even though that they have said that they have significant concerns with the policy, I think that they had a draft score, at least in the last go-around, of about, in the 80s. But they still have concerns about the policy. Other jurisdictions, and I can't recall them off the top of my head, but they're very flat and that they're not yet developed. And so it's an easy thing to be able to imagine a future. But for areas like ours that have existing development, have strategy in place, and have plans and focus, it's presenting heartburn.
Okay, that's interesting that Concord is scoring that highly. One, was there any thought given? I like the PDA comment. I think that's a really logical one and should be part of the comment letter. Now that SB 79 has come online, I know Concord's a little bit of an outlier because they're in Contra Costa County too, but is there an ability to say it shouldn't be one size fits all? Even SB 79 recognizes that some counties with more BART stations essentially are subject to those higher density limits, and counties like Contra Costa are not.
That is a policy choice and decision to make that recommendation.
Okay.
Can you clarify that last part? You said the county is not responsible, because I was wondering with the Pleasant Hill BART station, you're saying that the density doesn't apply to the county?
It doesn't apply, SB 79 doesn't apply to Contra Costa County. So we're not one of the 8 counties it's subject to.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe like we're responsible for 2 stations, not 2 stations together, 2 independent report. I mean, we have to file and be compliant with both.
That's correct.
Concord has 2 to be compliant with, which I can't figure out how they're compliant when they don't have access to the Concord Naval Weapons Station yet. But so the county and Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek are responsible to file for the Pleasant Hill BART station, except Pleasant Hill has too low of a percentage of land in the area, and so they're exempted from the station with their name on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should be able to take the name back then. And then the other.
Okay. We're getting into comments. I had a couple quick questions. So thinking forward, it sounds like there is the retreat for the MTC board, and the goal of this letter is to sway them to include another option beyond what the staff has been presenting them.
Correct.
And are we anticipating So the audience for this letter is not MTC staff. It is the MTC board.
That's also correct.
Okay. And then, so the call for flexibility and an alternative path to compliance is our desired outcome.
Yes, for example, around the Walnut Creek Park Station, if we took a different geography that went further down on the east side of the freeway that begins to mimic our West Downtown specific plan, we get very close to the land use densities that they're asking for. And what it also does is acknowledges the significant investment that the city has made in putting free transit to be able to extend the reach to BART. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing, too, with regard to the Pleasant Hill BART station, that if you look at it right there, the areas of the city that are in that capture area, there are bits and pieces, and that collectively it works out to about 32%, which is a trigger because it's above the 20% cutoff that they have. So identifying an alternate pathway for that also, because to comply with their requirements would really upset the apple cart in terms of the city's economic development strategy and our growth strategy.
Okay, and then, so if we put this forward to the MTC board on Thursday and ask them to consider this, are they likely to take action on Thursday?
They will not take action on Thursday. They're hearing input. And so in the most recent communication that we received late this afternoon is that it's a listening session and not any decision-making.
And so the strategy right now is to use this letter to convey our concerns during the listening phase. If they end up coming up and basically not modifying the approach and going with the staff recommendation, is there any other recourse for us besides telling MTC board we don't like them anymore?
We can choose not to apply for funds.
So it's basically, there's not a way to deal with it other than that. Okay. All right.
Sure, that as an elected body have ideas, but
okay. Why don't we go ahead and open it up to public comments, because I think we are veering into our comments rather than questions. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Is there anybody here that would like to provide public comment on this agenda item? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back up here. Why don't we do a round of, to see where we are on the letter? Somebody want to?
I'll start. Unless you want to start. Now, I think this is the age-old conversation ever since I've been on the city council since 2016, and that is that we're trying to continue to fit a square peg into a round hole, that one size fits all. We're constantly battling, whether it's the state, whether in this case MTC. As I said when I first came on board in 2016, Walnut Creek has and continues to meet its obligations, but we can't meet every city's obligations. And it feels like in too many cases, we're being asked to do things that just don't make sense for the city, yet we continue to do what's asked of us each and every time. I mean, here in this particular examples, we've got stations that are bordered between the freeway, county jurisdictions. These ones don't border the open space, but we've got bordering on open space that doesn't allow us to build there anyway. We do what we can, and I'm in complete support of this letter.
Who else wants, you want to take a shot at comments?
I'm in complete support of the letter. I think we need to make it clear, while I love the one size does not fit all, really think about putting this in the middle of Orinda. And you will see, I mean, it's a bowl with no downtown, and yet they have the same standards to meet. What concerns me about this is they've taken an arbitrary circle that is out of some textbook that says about a half mile, when it's not a half mile. It is a reasonable walking distance that somebody would walk rather than drive their car and park. And they're trying to cover the whole half circle, or the whole circle that's a half mile, as opposed to selecting the sites that with the areas within a transit proximate area that are truly transit oriented, and recognizing that some are not. So we have no way to dispose of the single family homes with no good infrastructure for walking, biking, or even driving, really, that are straight uphill. We're having to somehow figure out how to compensate. I made a comment to one member of the commission last week, and I said, it's feeling like what they really want us is to do the 3 Ps, and they're not going to let go of forcing us to come to have undervaluation in order to get the 3 Ps. I said, but that just sounds like conspiracy theory. And she goes, yep. So just understand it was a different commission when this was developed with a different set of values. So I think we've got the best shot now of counteracting this. But I think what I worry about most is that they'll just slow it down when fundamentally it is flawed. Slowing down something that is flawed is still flawed. And so that's what concerns me most about getting them amped up, the commission. I think they'll slow it down no matter what, because I'm my read of the tea leaves. But I'm afraid that they'll slow it down and staff will continue to just churn at this methodology that they've invented that they don't want to let go of.
All right. Councilmember DeFinney?
Well, well said, Mayor Pro Tem Wilk and Councilmember Silva. I find this to be, it would be interesting to hear someone come in and defend this in front of us, to actually apply logic to what they're doing. I mean, there's an intent, but the execution and the application are poor. So I'm in support of the letter.
Thank you. Councilmember Francois?
Yeah, I too am in support of the letter. I thought some of the points that are raised in terms of the alternative means of compliance were compelling. I think, in addition to building upon the existing PDAs, if we can get a reference in there to and adopted specific plans that were funded by MTC. I think that's already there using certified housing elements, but if we can't meet it, I'm really shocked to hear that Concord can, because I think that we've done a lot in terms of proactively planning for additional housing in and around the BART station, both BART stations. And so the 10-minute walk was also something, when you use that example of shifting the pin instead of straight in the middle of the BART station, that where it actually would be a radius that is an actual 10-minute walk. I think there should be emphasis on that. My concern is, and I also think would suggest consider adding a graphic to this letter, because I think that adds, especially the one where you compare the radius to the PDAs. I think that's very powerful. I worry that it would, letters tend to go off there. I'm really encouraged by who the chair of MTC is, and that she's on our neighboring city council, so I know that we have influence there. But I also, if we don't have a spokesperson there to speak to this, or Contra Costa doesn't, I'm worried that it falls somewhat on deaf ears, that this is going to take a concerted effort, an organized effort, a lobbying effort, so to speak, to get them to really seriously consider an alternative means of compliance. And that would require the people on that board firmly directing staff to do that, it sounds like, because otherwise they will do other things, and that won't be good. So thank you for calling this to our attention, bringing it to the Housing Committee and to the Council, and for drafting this letter, and I'm in support of sending it.
And I too am in support of the letter. I like the addition under the building upon existing PDAs and adding in the language about the specific plans funded by MTC. And I think putting in, I'm not quite sure where it goes, but emphasizing the amount of time, energy, and public input that went into the housing element, and that the housing element has been certified to meet our RENA goals. And referencing the RENA goals might not be a bad addition. I don't want to get into wordsmithing up here, but since my name's going to go on it, I get to, yeah. So I would like to see a couple modifications to beef up the idea, because I think what could be compelling for a decision maker is, we're not saying we want an alternative path to compliance because we don't want to comply. We're just saying we want an alternative path to compliance that builds upon all the site-specific efforts that we've done to meet our state and local goals for housing, and that is the path to success, is the amount of time and energy that have gone into those things. So getting that flavor in there and letting them know that we're not trying to not do what we need to do. We're just trying to tell them that this is a much more efficient way to do it. So.
Thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Move to approve the transmittal of the letter with our comments tonight, commenting on the transit-oriented communities policy and its implementation to MCTC by hand, because they're starting their meetings tomorrow afternoon at the Embassy Suites in Walnut Creek.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Silva.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilk.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVinny.
Aye.
Councilmember Francois.
Aye.
Mayor Darling.
Aye, and it sounds like I might be on a mission here in the next day or so. I know, but I think as mayor, I will handle this, yeah. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was entertaining. Moving on, speaking of entertaining, we have gotten to consideration and direction on the city's e-bike safety action plan. And I kind of wanted to set a little bit of a stage here, because we saw a lot of questions and comments in here that came from the public about what we're trying to do here. And we in the city have a bike master plan. We have working hard on safe routes to school. We have a Vision Zero plan. We have many different efforts that we're going to try to make sure that we move people out of cars wherever we can to other modes of transportation, whether that be mass transit, micromobility, walking, riding. And so that's our overall goal. And the micromobility represented by an e-bike is a clear part of that goal. The challenges that we're seeing really have come about, as we have discovered, when you take this really great micromobility, which is really fun to ride, and then you give it to a bunch of 13-year-olds, you have some challenges, and that's what we're addressing here today. We're not backing away from our commitments to sustainability and micromobility. We're just trying to improve public safety. And now I'm off my soapbox. You may do your presentation.
Madam Mayor, members of City Council, good evening. Charles Ching, I'm the Assistant City Manager. The item that I will be presenting to City Council tonight is the e-bike safety action plan, which outlines city's current efforts and future efforts around promoting the safe use of e-bikes in Walnut Creek. E-bike use has been growing in popularity in recent years. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, e-bikes are the most popular alternative mode of transportation for the past couple of years. And because of this, we've been seeing a record number of e-bike related injuries. Last year, there were 45,000 e-bike related injuries recorded. That being said, I want to reiterate what the mayor said. The idea of this action plan is not to condemn the use of e-bikes. E-bikes is an alternative mode of transportation. It has a lot of benefits, especially around sustainability and the environment. On a more local level, e-bike trips in Contra Costa has been increasing year over year. In 2021, it was at 3.6%. In 2025, it has more than doubled to 8.2%. And so the popularity has been hitting Contra Costa County as well.
Is that percent of all trips or percent of bicycle trips?
This is percent growth of e-bike use year over year.
But it's 3% of what?
Compared to 2020.
It's just measuring
Oh, I
the
see.
growth
It's
of.
the growth, thank you.
Yes. So before I jump into the actions, I want to talk about the three most popular, the three types of e-bikes. There's a Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 e-bikes. Class 1 and Class 2 are the most similar of the three in terms of requirements. They're both pedal assist bikes, and helmets are required for anyone riding an e-bike under the age of 18. There is no minimum age in using Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes, no requirement for a driver's license, and both has a speed limit of 20 miles an hour. The biggest difference between the two is that Class 2 e-bikes have a throttle, whereas Class 1 e-bikes do not. For Class 3 e-bikes do not have a throttle. They are pedal assist, but they can go up to 28 miles per hour. And that's why there's a minimum age of 16 years old and above before you can use Class 3 e-bikes. Now, I did reference a California Vehicle Code section underneath that an e-bike must have fully operable pedals and electric motor for it to be considered an e-bike. And the reason why I put that on there is because I did not want to confuse Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes with other types of two-wheeled motorized vehicles that we're seeing on the streets. We have e-mopeds, we have e-dirt bikes, and e-scooters. Now, these three are governed by different rules and regulations around usage. E-mopeds requires the use of helmets for anyone operating it under the age of 18 and must have either an M1 or M2 driver's license. M1 and M2 driver's licenses are licenses required to operate two-wheeled vehicles. E-dirt bikes, helmets are required for all ages. These do not require a driver's license because these are not made to be operated on public roads. These can go up to 28 miles per hour. And then for e-scooters, these are, you will need a valid driver's license to operate an e-scooter. You will need a helmet for anyone operating it who is 18 years old or below, and a maximum speed limit of 15 miles an hour. So myself, along with other staff with the city, came up with an e-bike safety action plan, which really revolves around 5 pillars. First is a public education campaign talking about the safe use of e-bikes. Safety checks and enforcement will continue to be something that will be really important as we encourage the safe use of e-bikes. Statewide legislation and local policies, continuing to monitor statewide legislation around e-bikes. The continued improvement of bike infrastructure and also partnerships within the community. So as for our public education campaign, we feel that there are 4 sides that we want to attack that we want to deliver our message to the public. One is a new city e-bike webpage. 2 are educational videos. We understand that a lot of people digest information better through videos. Social media is such a powerful tool, and we deliver a lot of our messaging through social media right now. And last but not least, in-person outreach. So 4 weeks ago, we launched our new e-bike city webpage. This webpage can be accessed through both the city website and also the PD website. Our new webpage has a lot of valuable information about the different types of e-bikes, training videos, training resources, and FAQs around the proper use of e-bikes. As of today, we've had 575 unique website views from the day it was launched. But we've also gotten a lot of success with our newsletter articles and also our social media pages. As you can see, we've gotten over 244,000 touch points just on online outreach alone. And then finally, in-person outreach. We've done, as city staff, a lot of in-person outreach. The police department held its first ever bike rodeo in July. We've had several dozen people come out and participate. We also got a few local businesses to donate giveaways and just safety supplies to the participants. We're also leveraging our connections with the schools. We feel that the schools are a very important resource that we can use. So earlier this month, Public Works and PD participated in the National Walk and Roll event at WCI, which was very well attended. We've done outreach at Foothill Middle School, and we do have scheduled presentations at local schools and also at parent-teachers associations scheduled in early November. So there's just more photos on the bike rodeo. As you can see, we have PD personnel just teaching the kids and the parents on proper bike use and proper e-bike use. Next is statewide legislation. There's a number of legislation out there that we're continuing to monitor, and there are 5 that I wanted to highlight that have been signed into law. One is Senate Bill 381, authored by Senator Min. This was adopted in 2023, which prompted the Mineta Institute out of San Jose State to conduct a study on e-bikes to inform future legislation. Under the bill, the report is due on January 1st, so we will monitor to see what the report has to say around e-bikes. And then there are 2 assembly bills authored by Assemblymember Davies around safety of e-bikes. One is the requirement to equip a bike with a red reflector, a flashing reflector, when you use an e-bike at night. That is AB 544. And then AB 545 prohibits a person from selling a device that enables you to modify an e-bike. That's one of the biggest problems that we're seeing with e-bikes right now is, although their speed is limited out of the box, there are vendors of kits that allow you to modify these bikes to go faster and clearly more dangerous. So this bill goes into effect in January of 2026. AB 875 is another bill that authorizes the impounding of two-wheeled vehicles that are not considered e-bikes, that are being operated illegally, or in an instance where a Class 3 e-bike is being operated by a person under the age of 16. So it gives police or a peace officer the authority to impound those vehicles. And then last but not least is AB 965. This prohibits a person from selling a Class 3 e-bike to anyone under the age of 16 who is not authorized to operate a Class 3 e-bike to begin with. Like I said, we will continue to monitor legislation that is being considered, and we'll report back to City Council if there's anything that is of significance. And then although a lot of our action plan revolves around legislation and education, we feel that e-bike safety checks and enforcement is still a very important action that needs to be taken to encourage safe e-bike use. As you can see, Walnut Creek Police Department has done many enforcement efforts throughout the past couple of months. We had one not too long ago with our partner, East Bay Regional Parks District. This has resulted in many stops, several dozen citations, and we've impounded 2 e-motorcycles in the process. And to further improve our delivery of service, we are actually sending a police officer to a post-certified e-bike instructor course. This is a new 5-day course that is being put together by Post to just convey best practices around policing of e-bikes. And then bike infrastructure. I think it's really important to highlight the city's commitment on improving the city's bike infrastructure. Parks and recreational facilities is a city council priority, and under the city's sustainability action plan, the city council has committed to increasing bike facility miles by 25% by 2030. To date, our bike network has increased by 12%. And in the next year, by 2027, we have about $7.67 million in bike facility projects that are slated to start. And so we understand that bike infrastructure is probably the best way to keep bikers, pedestrians, and autos safe by separating them from the road. We understand bike infrastructure is very expensive, but the city continues to invest in bike infrastructure. And this slide just shows the infrastructure that is currently in development and that are being planned in the future. North Broadway, Parkside, Arroyo, and Walden is already funded and is part of the $7.67 million project. We have several in our 10-year CIP. And matter of fact, at our last City Council meeting, City Council approved connecting the bike infrastructure we have on Geary to Treat. So just furthering the city's emphasis on improving bike infrastructure throughout the city. And then finally, we understand that a lot of the work we can't do ourselves, and so we're really leveraging a lot of our partnerships. The city is part of the E-Bike Safety Coalition. This is a group that is being spearheaded by the town of Danville. It's made up of different Contra Costa cities and Alameda cities, tackling the use of e-bikes and the safe use of e-bikes. Like I mentioned earlier, PD has done enforcement efforts with partners with East Bay Regional Park District. We've tapped the Youth Commission, who's committed to further the message on e-bikes. And has committed to making their annual project something around e-bike safety. So we're partnering with legislators, schools and school districts, parents, the public, small businesses, and other stakeholders within the community as well. So this is a photo of the e-bike post done by our Youth Commission, and just further emphasizes that we are going to tap into our partnerships throughout the community for this. These are photos at the WCI Walk and Roll event earlier this month. And then I want to take this opportunity to kind of clarify the rules of the road for Walnut Creek. First, our Muni Code considers e-bikes as bicycles. And bicycles obviously must follow the traffic laws, just like any other vehicle. Bicyclists are restricted from riding on sidewalks unless they are designated sidewalks for bikes. And we have very few of those. And the part that's a little hard to police is people under the age of 16 are allowed to bike on sidewalks. So that's the rule of the road for the city's streets and sidewalks. The city also has a lot of open space. So these are the rules for bikes and e-bikes in Walnut Creek trails. So in Walnut Creek trails, Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes are allowed on all trails where regular bikes are allowed. And they are allowed on all double-track trails and single-track trails unless it's identified that it's not allowed by signage. So I'll repeat that. So for Class 1 and Class 2, They are allowed where all regular bikes are allowed, which is double track trails, and single track trails unless it's signed that it's not allowed. Regardless of what class of e-bike, 1 or 2, the maximum speed is 15 miles an hour. Class 3 e-bikes, e-scooters, and e-dirt bikes are not allowed in open space. And before I open it up to questions, I wanted to play this video this is one of many videos that we shot around e-bikes that we will be using on our website as well as social media.
Hello, Walnut Creek. I'm Officer Adamson. Let's talk all things e-bikes. I've got some great tips for you. E-bikes are a fun and easy way to get around Walnut Creek. Whether you're new to e-bikes or you've been riding for a long time, here are some great things to keep in mind before you roll out. First thing we want you to decide is which class of bike is best for you. For riders under 16 years old, Class 1 bikes are a phenomenal option. Avoid bikes with throttles and stick to pedal assist only. If you're in the market to buy an e-bike, you want to shop at a trusted local bike shop and make sure that your bike is street legal and safely put together. If you're an e-bike rider, it's important to know that you must follow the same rules of the road as cars. Watch your speed, look out for traffic and joggers, and always use hand signals when you turn or stop. It's really important to know where you can and cannot ride your e-bike. You are not allowed to ride your e-bike or e-scooters on sidewalks downtown, and it's important to make sure you ride in the bike lane or use the vehicle lane if a bike lane is not present. Make sure you protect your head by wearing a proper bike helmet and make sure it fits you right. If you're under 18 years old, helmets are required by law. Before every ride, it's very important that you check your tire pressure, your brakes, and your chain. Now that you know the rules of the road regarding e-bikes, make sure you ride smart and ride safe, Walnut Creek.
And that concludes my presentation, Mayor. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions, clarifications? Councilmember Silva?
Thank you very much for the presentation and all the work on this. And I'm sure it feels like you have put in about an hour for every letter that we have received about this issue. Could you go back to the slide where it talks about double track and single track trails? Because I could hear the words you were saying. It says, allowed on trails where regular bikes are allowed. So if I resort the words here, allowed on double track trails in all instances, and in single track trails if, this says if they are identified by signage, not if they are not identified.
If they are identified by signage that it is not allowed.
That's not what that says.
Well, okay, I think to be clear, if you're out there and there's a single track in the open space, if there's a sign at the top of it that has a little bike with the arrow through it, don't go on it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Absent the signage, bikes are allowed.
Let me, Mayor, if I may, we'll double check that and get back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And my suggestion would be before you actually not only check it, but use the symbol to remind you whether it's a yes or a no, because we need to get that clarified, because we're going to have people calling and phoning in and emailing us about this issue. Thank you.
Other questions?
I've got a
Mayor Pro Tem?
just a quick question to clarify. I think it was the slide before this one. So juveniles under 16 are allowed to ride on sidewalks. And it seems to me that that's been actually one of the big problems when it comes to before and after school, because they're riding on the sidewalks and parents are either walking or students are walking to the sidewalk, walking to school as well. So that's the case for bikes and e-bikes, and does that include scooters too?
No. So this is only for bikes and e-bikes.
Okay, all right. And so either way on, I mean, it just doesn't matter, think about either way on sidewalks? I didn't know that.
Correct.
Okay. Are cities able to enact their own registration or licensing of e-bikes similar to a DMV so that if people buy them, we have a record of whether it's their age or some kind of registration?
We've seen other cities implement this model. So yes, we are.
We are?
We are. We are. We can if we decide we want to.
Okay. So we're not right now, but we can?
That's correct.
Okay.
Can I add to that just a little bit too? The law is evolving with e-bikes. And so even if you look at the Marin example where there's specific state legislation with regards to the regulation of e-bikes, so we just should keep an eye on the state legislation because there is attempts to get this to be more rationalized across the state instead of case by case. And when the state gives specific authorization to specific counties to do certain things, it suggests an implication that the authority doesn't otherwise exist for general law cities.
Okay.
Can you just expand on that, your question? The registration of e-bikes in Walnut Creek, like what does that look like? You're saying if you buy a bike online anywhere and you want to ride it in Walnut Creek, you'd have to register it with the city?
No.
No. What is
no. Pro Tem Wilk's question was if there's an ability for us to register e-bikes. And I said there are other cities in California who have done that, but not in Walnut Creek.
What does that mean to register them?
City of Beverly Hills is a good example. They have an e-bike registry program to where if you are to purchase an e-bike, you will register the purchase with the city and you will sign a commitment that you will follow the rules. Both the parent and the child would follow the rules around e-bikes.
Thank you. And lastly, it's regarding education. I assume that there's going to be a lot of outreach to schools, school administration. Has there been thought to doing something? I think they still do every 15 minutes when it comes to DUI for high schools, but is there a thought to doing some kind of education that is almost a quote, scared straight for e-bike riding, just to really get the information through to students who might think, you know, I'm invincible, doesn't matter, I can do whatever I want?
I'll defer to Captain Slater on that.
That's probably less a question than more a thought suggestion, but.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm Captain Slater, your operations captain, and prior to this appointment, I was your traffic and outreach manager, so I'm somewhat versed in this topic. And I appreciate the question very much about the scared straight comment. We don't want to make people afraid to use e-bikes, but we are concerned about people modifying them, making them illegal, making them unsafe, and obviously putting themselves and other people at making them unsafe by being out on the road illegally, improperly, and unsafely. So our target age-wise is middle schools, and we are working very closely with the schools who did not have this on their agenda to have us in and do some type of public safety outreach. Thanks to our PTA members, it looks like we're making some traction, and we're hoping in the second week of November we will be able to go to our middle schools and do a small assembly. Maybe we were told it might be doing their, in lieu of PE, they'll take a quick time that where we can do the small groups to really get in depth and answer questions, since that's the target-rich environment for that age group. When it comes to the high schools, we have plenty of students that are not quite eligible to have a driver's license and still using these things. So that's likely going to be a webinar for the parents and students to do together, and we're trying to do that same thing around the same week so we can be target rich with our environment for both our students on all aspects of our public schools and try to make a dent in this making sure that Christmas presents that are made, the right purchases are made for Christmas, and then making sure that everyone stays safe. I am happy to report that with all of the outreach that we have been doing, and not just within Walnut Creek, but the entire area, we have seen a reduced number of I would say e-bike riding around town. Maybe that's because it's getting darker, maybe because it's getting with school back in session, but we're liking to see this trend because it makes us easier for us to focus on the enforcement, the education, and then trail back on the enforcement as necessary.
Thank you very much. And certainly this is probably the most hot button issue in Walnut Creek right now. Maybe all cities. I get more emails on e-bikes than any other topic right now.
Thanks. Any other questions? Or
For Captain Slater, what sort of enforcement challenges is PD seeing with e-bikes?
That's a very good question. As you may expect, if it happens to be a student or a juvenile, a teenager that is riding these illegally and they see a cop, we have seen them try to run away, and that could be dangerous. So you will not be seeing us chase down and have an accident awaiting to happen with a very inexperienced rider on our public streets. But we do have ways with technology to try, and if we have someone flee and we have the availability, we have been able to track people through our use of drones. We can't do it in advance, but we can do it after a violation has occurred, such as a fleeing violator. And then we have had some success stories in contacting those teenagers. And the bad news, and what I want people to see that are listening to this, if you do run and we do catch you, you will be held accountable and you will receive a citation. And what's worse, you'll likely have your, if it was an illegal motorcycle, impounded. We've had that happen several times, because we're here to make sure that our streets stay safe and that our riders stay safe. And that's the message that we're having to send, especially if they're fleeing from us.
So I mean, I think you're looking at kind of more egregious safety issues, not necessarily is that person 16 or 15 on a class 2 or a class 3, but are there a pack of e-bike riders in the middle of Ignacio Valley Road?
So if that happens, that is going to draw a lot of attention and is likely going to be illegal, because it's not where it's supposed to be, following the rules of the road like any other bicyclist, which is supposed to be off to the side or at a designated bike lane, as mentioned earlier. But we are not just focusing on someone riding a bike and making that a violation or having that be an issue. We're looking for the behavior of the rider. So if a person is committing issues, riding where they're not supposed to, riding recklessly, such as popping wheelies, then they will get attention and then we will make enforcement. But for everyday use of riding, we are not going to be out there for looking for those type of violations and making those specific enforcement stops.
That makes sense. And the average citizen then, if they see some sort of activity like that happening, should call the non-emergency line and let PD know about it?
Correct. But if someone is doing reckless driving, we do want that to be called in immediately so we can try to address it, because there's not much we can do after the fact. We get calls before saying, I just saw a car run a red light. Well, I'm sorry, but we weren't there, so the laws do not allow us to do anything at that time. But that reckless driving behavior is probably going to continue as they drive around town. And please call that in so we can do our best to address it.
Okay. Thanks very much.
all right. So if you were a parent
I happen
going shopping for a Christmas present for a first-time e-bike rider, which e-bike would you recommend?
That's a loaded question, just because there's so many
And I know what
options.
Officer Adamson said, so you can't contradict him, because we were recording a video on this.
I would say if you look at the class, that especially that's up there right now, you have to pick the one that's going to be best for your teenager on their skills and abilities and interest, and knowing where you can ride it is going to be a big factor, especially if you want to go into the open space. So it's going to be between a class 1 and a class 2 is how I would say. It's going to be based on that personal preference and where you want to ride it between city streets and and the limited areas of our open space.
Okay, and then where on the e-bike can you look to see what class it is?
When you go to purchase one, the retailer should be able to tell you exactly where. The police department actually has 4 that we can use for our for enforcement purposes, and they're actually located on the main frame near the battery pack. Every bike that goes for sale has it on there.
And if you're a parent, is there an easy way to look at your kid's bike to see if they've modified it? Or is that something you have to have a higher level of expertise to figure out.
I would have to do some more research to let you know.
Sorry, I'm just doing a pop quiz to see. if
That's
you're-
good.
yeah.
You're just testing me. That is the one question I would have to do some more research on. I can't answer that without a little additional training, but my traffic team can tell you
They
they
can
know.
tell you,
Yes.
All right, thanks. Officer Adamson and I recorded a separate video on e-bikes, courtesy of Mike's Bikes, and we got to go down there and show him, look where the stickers were and everything. So hopefully that one will be out soon.
So I appreciate your question about the alterations. Is there any way we can work with local retailers, from the Targets to the Mike's Bikes, et cetera, to put signage up in the bike shops that says this is what the rules are, and these are the alteration packages. Do not, X marks the spot. No.
So I believe that's already being done, especially with the legislation that's about to be passed. But we are continuing to work with those retailers, and we have every intention of having another bike rodeo sometime this school year. I'm assuming next spring, and I guarantee that we will be messaging with them to make sure that those signs are posted before sales are made.
I was trying to get ahead of the holiday buying spree because
And unfortunately, I think a lot of those kits are available on Amazon.
You are correct, but I can promise you this. Our crime prevention specialist will be reaching out to those known retailers that we already worked with to make sure that is messaged before the holiday shopping
maybe we need to
starts.
talk to Amazon about putting a notice, warning before you buy this.
Yeah, that works so well on Amazon. Any other questions?
Yes,
Or
thanks.
Benny?
I was wondering, why are the Class 2, I mean, I know there's these apps that allow the Class 2 to be modified, but because I think the kids are sort of doing this on their own. It's not like they're going down to the store and, purchasing the modification kit and then taking it home. Like they've figured out the hack on their own. What is it about the Class 2 that makes them so easily modifiable? Because, I mean, some of these vehicles are going 30+ miles per hour and don't have the brakes equipped to handle that speed. So,
Well, I can't say with certainty, but we do have a officer going next month to e-bike training, and I believe he's going to be given some of the most current trends that can help answer that question. My best guess would be that with our younger generation being so tech savvy, they like to tinker, and this is just something, hey, let's see what I can do, and it's not very complicated when you get to use an app and start modifying. But as soon as they do, that can significantly change the speed, which makes it extremely dangerous and unsafe.
yeah. And then I was curious because talking to some parents or some residents, they'll tell you the story about, I was walking down the street and that bike came whizzing by me and it almost hit me, and they'll say something like, if that bike had hit me or injured me, I'm going to sue the parents. So I'm curious, and maybe this is a question for a city attorney, if these are classified as bicycles, and what is the liability to the parents if the kids injure someone on the bikes? And what's been going on in the state with these types of cases, and then what if they've modified it versus not modified? And
So we would have to look into that. I mean, that is negligence. Whether it attributes to the parents or not, I would have to look at what the case trend is associated with that, and we can report back to the council on that.
okay, because I'm picturing like a 12-year-old on a bicycle kind of loses control and hits somebody. I can't imagine there's like that much liability to the parents. That sort of just seems like what might happen in life. But
so let us report back to you, because there are supervision responsibilities, and we'll have to look at the case law, but I could see where it's a little bit inverted, that the older the person gets, or obviously if they're emancipated or something like that, then they have their own liability associated with it, but we can report back to the council on that.
All right.
Mayor, if I may, if we could go back briefly to the slide with the open space, maybe Mike Vickers, our Assistant Public Works Director, can come up and clarify Councilmember Silva's question there.
So I have the municipal code here, or the shorter version of it, and it clearly states that bicycles are authorized on double-track trails or 8-foot or wider trails unless otherwise posted. And for example, the Peg Covar Trail is a single-track trail where bicycles are authorized, and it is posted stating that bikes are authorized.
So the signage says affirmatively they're allowed, not the reverse.
It's both.
Oh, it's both.
It's both.
So,
So at the beginning of the Peg Covar Trail, if you were to go through the gate, there's a regulatory sign that says, you know, no smoking, none of this, but it also has a symbol of a bike without a line through it, meaning that a bicycle is authorized there. And then we have other single-track trails where we have these 4-foot signage markers that with a line through it with the bike. Sorry, 4-inch. It could probably be that way. That size would be more helpful, but it's 4-inch. Yeah.
4 inches, not 4 foot. Okay.
That's correct.
So, and in those cases, it either says thumbs up, yes, or thumbs down, no?
Yes, that's correct.
So it seemed like it'd be hard to have every trail, every single track trail marked. Perhaps they are, but is the assumption that they're allowed unless told otherwise, or they aren't allowed unless approved?
Unless
on the
posted, unless otherwise posted. So a sign should be posted at the markers.
And if we don't see a sign, what is the sort of?
Well, so if you don't see a sign, that would typically be a double track trail. If it's a single track trail, then staff should sign it. One of the challenges we deal with often is signs are removed from other hikers or bikers, and we try to stay up on that. But the sign should indicate.
So all single tracks should have a sign on it that tells you yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. We have learned a lot here tonight about e-bikes and open space and e-motorcycles and e-scooters. Is there any comments people want to make? Public, oh, that's right, public comment. You've been waiting. Step forward.
I'm shocked to hear that bikes are allowed on the sidewalk.
Here's,
I'm shocked.
I just want to say, make sure you state your name. You don't have to state your city, and you have.
I'm Ron D. Cristoforo, living on Botello Drive, 20 years. Behind me is Alma Park. Before I get into the bike, we want speed bumps. They race down. We want speed bump or crosswalk, or other cities at the beginning of the street. They have a sign in the middle of the street that says this is a slow zone. So we demand this. We want this on Botello Drive. I'm there over 20 years. And now getting into the bikes. In Long Island in 1980, we had mopeds, 17 miles an hour. And we had a license plate, but you didn't have to have insurance, and you didn't have to have driver's license. And this is going quick, yeah. Well, anyway, I want to say that anyone under 18 should have a license plate on their bike, so we know who they are. And older than that, they don't have to. And I don't have the time here to go all of this, but I did want to say that this is going to get worse. The traffic downtown. I have coffee on Locust Street every weekend in the summer. I've never seen the police. Never go after these kids with the bikes back and everything. You know, never. The police are busy, but they're not on Locust Street in the good weather on the weekends. And I only have, a second left? I wanted to say, in my heart, John William Perry from Long Island went to NYU Law School and died September 1st, 2011, under 50 tons of cement on the ground floor, 50 tons of cement. And all I know is 6 months later, they found the whole body. So I thought I would have, I couldn't believe
Sorry
how
about that.
quick this went.
One of the things you could do, if you have additional input, the city does accept input via email, and so you could provide input. This is something we're going to keep
email.
working
I
on.
want to come to all the meetings.
Okay.
Because I'm around delicate older people that get knocked down, and they're going to sue you for millions. I tell them to
I
sue
appreciate this.
the
Thank you for
city
your comments.
for millions.
Thank you for your comments.
So, and license plate.
Thank
can
you
write
for
down.
your comments.
You can write down.
Thank you
Oh,
for
and
your
if
comments.
anyone wants to
Excuse me, sir.
Can I give you my phone number?
Sir, your time is up.
All right.
Thank you.
I mean, my phone number.
Excuse me, sir.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Is there additional public comment? Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and close public comment now. Final direction to staff, comments? Why don't you start?
Thank you very much for the thorough overview on this. I'm glad to see that we're paying a lot of attention to it. I'm sure that you're collaborating with many of our fellow cities up and down the state that are dealing with the exact same issues. And look forward to hearing how this goes and maybe an update in, this time next year, how this has gone, any other potential improvements.
Councilmember DeFinney?
Yes, so thank you for the work you're doing on this, and that's impressive, 240,000 contacts through the outreach campaign, so kudos. I believe this is a really important safety issue. E-bikes are great technology, and I certainly support their use and improving the infrastructure to use them on. But as wearing my hat as an ER doctor, I'm seeing a lot more of these injuries. So is our local trauma center. And I can tell you that speaking to leadership at the hospital, whether it be from the trauma service or the ER, they're alarmed by the increase in accidents, the severity of the accidents, and very much support instituting good safety measures to protect our children. And we currently have a 15-year-old in the ICU right now with a severe head injury, and I'm afraid we're going to see, unfortunately, more injuries like that. So I think it's important to promote bike use and e-bike use, but certainly the one that seems most problematic is the Class 2. They have 750-watt engines. They're easily modifiable by the kids. The information's out there now online, and these are the bikes we're seeing popping wheelies, traveling 30+ miles per hour, and these bikes are heavy. The brakes don't. Aren't made for that. And we don't need a lot of data and studies to know that seeing an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old riding a bike like that is just not safe. So other communities have pushed for changes, and it happened at the state level. So one of the bills that you didn't mention, but I know you're aware of, is 1778 from Marin County. And that was supposed to be a state bill. So that was going to basically designate when something is an e-bike related trauma versus just a bike. Right now they're all lumped under bikes, so it's hard to tease out the data. There's not as much out there as we would like to see. But even with the sort of lack of data that we have, the Consumer Product and Safety Commission that studied this issue from 2017 to 2023, looking at e-bikes and other micromobility devices, found that for kids under the age of 14, they represent 36% of the injuries, and they only comprise 18% of that population. So they're having injuries at twice the rate. Marin found even higher rates. They found 5 times the rates in the 10 to 15-year-old age bracket for e-bike accidents compared to other age groups. So what are some action items that in addition to what we're doing, continue educating both the public and the parents, continue to engage with e-bike groups. We got comments about from biking groups that maybe hadn't been reached out to yet, but certainly want to work with them. I can imagine that while they're advocating for bikes and they're advocating for bike routes and they're advocating for e-bike usage, they also have I'm sure the compassion to know that we need to regulate or be wary of the injuries we're seeing to our young folks. This technology is growing much more rapidly than reasonable safety measures have, and we're seeing the results of this in our hospitals and our trauma centers, and I look forward to hopefully moving the needle forward on this.
Thank you. Councilmember Silva?
Thank you very much for your work in this arena, and I know it's difficult to, on the one hand, say this is an important means of transportation, which it is, that it helps to reduce vehicle miles traveled, greenhouse gas emissions, at the same time that if it is being operated unsafely because it's fun, and it's fun in a somewhat dangerous way if you're too immature to understand the risks, that it also has those challenges with it. I appreciate the information about the percentage of youth, et cetera, that are using them, what the safety standards say. I think one of the things that we have to be, I'm past PTA president at Las Lomas, and one of the things that was very helpful was not to come to PTA meetings, because very few people come to PTA meetings, but somehow getting the administration to tell their parents that they need to come to an assembly themselves. Because when parents understand the risk, including the data showing it, when parents see the videos of what's happening on the Iron Horse Trail in the summer, they kind of go, they can help take the reins. If they don't understand the risks, they're going to buy the equipment, or they're going to let the kid buy the equipment or play with it in somebody else's garage and get on a friend's bike. So I think it's a two-pronged education approach, not only of the rider, but of the parent who is funding the rider. I can't imagine what the parents of the 15-year-old think, that something went wrong. And I think that's important. I would also, I would like to hear a report back on this when the officer is done with the post-education, because that would be really helpful. What do you learn in 5 days? That there's got to be some really interesting information that's going to be helpful to us. And then I would also like to hear a report back maybe in the spring, because we have to get to these parents in these schools and the youth in these schools before summer, because during summertime is when the real activity on the Iron Horse Trail and the Canal Trail was occurring.
Thank you. Councilmember Francois?
Hey, thank you for the report. Really good information. I too read the letter from Bike East Bay, and I recall them coming to Planning Commission meetings when we were adopting our bike master plan, and I think they raise a valid comment that it's been a while since we've looked at that or updated it. I'm proud of the efforts we've made to expand the bike network here. I do feel, I personally would like more data and information before considering regulation, so I think that the right approach for now is certainly education and safety, and that ideally I think there should be one set of rules that applies to every community in California. It shouldn't be one rule in Walnut Creek and a different rule when you cross over to Pleasant Hill. I just think that's unworkable, and that I know the state has done the study, and so they'll have a lot of data and information on that. Could be my anecdotal view. I am on the Iron Horse Trail quite a bit. I don't see it as an issue. I'm there in the early morning, which probably maybe a lot of the reckless behavior is not happening, but I'm also there on Saturdays. And I see people generally, on the stretch that I'm on at least, complying with the rules. You know, if they're walking, biking, or running, they're on the right side of the trail. They call out when they're passing. I've also seen packs of riders, I assume on e-bikes, in the middle of Ignacio Valley Road. And I said, I should call the police. I should let them know that there's an unsafe behavior happening right now. So that makes the alarm bells go off in my head that I want to stop that unsafe behavior. And I'll tell you, on my drive from BART to here tonight, I was stopped at a red light going southbound on Oakland, and the traffic going westbound on Ignacio had the right-of-way. An e-scooter crossed against the red light in the face of oncoming traffic on Ignacio, no helmet. And I thought, I couldn't believe I just saw that happen. So I think that I don't know that there's a simple solution to this, like ban all 16-year-olds from having a Class 2 bike. I think it's education in terms of safety and enforcement in terms of when you see something illegal like that happening, there needs to be consequences for that. I think one other thing, and it's nomenclature maybe, but we called it an action plan, and probably Bike East Bay was like, what? Wait a minute, where's the plan? How come we didn't reach out to us? And I don't know if we really meant that it was a plan as opposed to kind of principles or kind of guidelines or things that we're working on. They're action items as opposed to a plan. I mean, I think it's a great technology. I guess I do have a Class 2 bike. And just learning the differences between the three. And it's really convenient to be able to go kind of from my house to downtown or out on the trail, and I enjoy, and I see my neighbors using it to commute to work as well. So I think we definitely want to promote the behavior and, ideally have it be done in a safe manner.
Thank you. And I think just my summary, I think you guys are doing a great job. I think the impetus is to work on education first and enforcement as a secondary basis. I think targeting, the captain did talk about targeting behavior, and I think that's the appropriate way to go. As far as regulation, I think I would like to see us see if there's possible, once the Minetta study is out, see if there's a push for state legislation rather than trying to do it on a citywide basis. I do want to keep our eye on the importance of micromobility because teenagers have been hurting themselves in a million different ways with their desire to test the boundaries. And I think one of the commenters talked about they can hurt, teens are hurt in vehicle accidents as well as e-bikes. So recognizing that it's the age group and the behavior that they are prone to, that we want to try to help them understand how to be more safe about it and get that message across to parents. I think you guys are doing a good job. I look forward to hearing you guys come back in the spring sometime perhaps, and hopefully the message gets out before Christmas. So thank you very much. If there's anything else for the good of the order at this point, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for everybody.